Help! He's beating me!
Beating me!
The scream tore through the night air like a knife through flesh. Elena's face hit the concrete, blood pouring from her split lip as her husband's boot connected with her ribs again. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. She was going to die in this parking lot, and no one would care. But someone did hear. Someone whose own daughter had died the same way 3 years ago. And when Marcus Bear Thornton stepped off his motorcycle, what he did next would shock everyone watching. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and follow this story until the very end. Comment below with the city you're watching from so we can see how far this story travels around the world. Now back to the story. The fluorescent lights of the Lone Star gas station flickered overhead as Elena Martinez counted the cash in her register for the third time. Her hands were shaking. They always shook now. $23 short. Again. She knew where the money went. She always knew. But knowing didn't change anything. Knowing didn't stop the fists. Knowing didn't heal the bruises hidden beneath her long sleeves in the middle of a Texas summer. The clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m. 13 more minutes until her shift ended. 13 more minutes until she had to go home to him. Her phone buzzed. She didn't need to look to know who it was. She looked anyway. "Where's my money? I know you got paid today. Don't make me come get it." Elena's stomach turned. She typed back with trembling fingers. "Shift ends at midnight. I'll bring it home." The reply came instantly. "Bring all of it. I got a game tonight. Don't be stupid." She set the phone down and pressed her palms against the counter, trying to steady herself. 5 years. 5 years of this. 5 years of walking on eggshells, of covering bruises with makeup, of lying to her mother about why she couldn't visit for Christmas. 5 years of dying slowly. The bell above the door chimed. Elena's head snapped up and her heart stopped. Derek stood in the doorway. He wasn't supposed to be here. He never came to her work. That was the one place she felt almost safe. The one place where his shadow didn't reach. But there he was. 6 feet of pure menace, swaying slightly, the smell of whiskey reaching her from across the store. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw tight with that particular tension she knew too well. He'd lost at poker, she could always tell. "Hey, baby." His voice was too sweet, too controlled. "Thought I'd come pick you up, save you the walk." Elena's mouth went dry. "I still have 13 minutes on my shift. Then I'll wait." He walked to the counter, each step deliberate, predatory. He leaned against the display of beef jerky, never taking his eyes off her. The other customer in the store, a teenage boy buying chips, glanced nervously between them and hurried out. Smart kid. "Derek, I'm working. You can't be here." "Can't be where near my wife." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What are you hiding, Elena? You got some boyfriend coming to pick you up, is that it?" "No, Then what's the problem?" His voice dropped, became something darker. "Give me the money." "I can't. The register." "Not the register. Your money, your tips, your paycheck, all of it." Elena felt the familiar terror rising in her chest. "Derek, please. The rent is due. We need groceries. I can't just..." He moved so fast, she didn't have time to react. His hand shot across the counter and grabbed her wrist, twisting it until she cried out. "I wasn't asking. You're hurting me. Then stop making me hurt you." He twisted harder. "The money. Now." Tears streamed down Elena's face. She reached into her apron pocket with her free hand and pulled out the small envelope of tips she'd earned that week. $47. The money she'd been saving to buy a bus ticket. The money that represented her only hope of escape. Derek snatched it from her hand and released her wrist. He counted the bills, his expression darkening with each one. "This is it, $47. He threw the envelope back at her face. "You've been working here for 3 years and this is all you've got. What are you doing with the rest of it?" "Huh? You think I'm stupid?" "That's everything, I swear. Tips have been slow this week." "Lies." He said the word like a curse. "You're always lying to me. Just like your mother said you would. Just like everyone warned me." Elena knew better than to argue. She knew better than to speak at all when he got like this. But the words came anyway, propelled by some desperate, suicidal part of her soul that still remembered what it felt like to be human. Maybe if you didn't gamble away every cent we have, we wouldn't be in this situation." The silence that followed was absolute. Derek's face went through several transformations in the span of 2 seconds. Surprise, disbelief, and then something Elena had seen too many times before. Rage. Pure, unfiltered rage. "What did you just say to me?" "Derek, I didn't mean no." He came around the counter, moving into her space. "Say it again. Say it to my face, you ungrateful little... Please, there are cameras." "I don't care about the cameras." He grabbed her by the hair and dragged her toward the back door. Elena screamed, clawed at his hands, but he was too strong. He was always too strong. The back door slammed open, and suddenly she was outside in the dark parking lot behind the gas station, where the cameras didn't reach, where no one could see, where she was going to die. Derek threw her to the ground. The asphalt tore at her palms, her knees. Before she could get up, his boot connected with her ribs. Once, twice, 3 times. "You think you can talk to me like that?" Each word was punctuated by another kick. "You think you're better than me? You're nothing. You hear me? Nothing." Elena curled into a ball, trying to protect her head, her stomach. The pain was everywhere, consuming her, drowning her. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. She could only feel. And what she felt was death coming for her. "Help!" The scream tore from her throat before she could stop it. "Help! He's beating me." Derek laughed. "Scream all you want. Nobody's coming. Nobody cares about you. Nobody ever has." He was right. She knew he was right. In 5 years, no one had ever come. Not her family, who blamed her for marrying him. Not her friends, who had all drifted away. Not the police, who always believed his lies. No one ever came. But tonight, someone heard. The roar of motorcycle engines filled the air like thunder. Elena, through her swollen eyes, saw headlights cutting through the darkness. Not one, but many. A whole procession of lights pulling into the gas station parking lot like an army arriving on the battlefield. Derek stopped kicking. He turned toward the sound, his face suddenly uncertain. "What the hell?" The motorcycles came around the building one after another. 5, 6, 7 of them. Big bikes ridden by big men in leather vests with patches Elena couldn't read in the dark. The lead bike stopped 10 feet away. The engine cut off, and in the sudden silence, Elena heard her own ragged breathing. The man who dismounted was massive, 6'4" at least, with shoulders like a linebacker and arms covered in tattoos. His beard was gray, his face weathered and scarred. He wore a leather vest with a patch that read, "Iron Wolves, Missy President." His eyes found Elena on the ground, bloody and broken. Then they found Derek standing over her with his fists still clenched. Something changed in the big man's face. Something shifted behind his eyes. Something that looked like recognition, like memory, like pain. "Step away from her." His voice was quiet, but it carried like a gunshot. Derek puffed up, trying to look bigger than he was. "This ain't none of your business, man. This is between me and my wife." "I said step away." "Or what? You gonna beat me up? Do you know who I am? I got connections. I got people who..." The big man moved faster than Elena would have thought possible for someone his size. One moment he was standing by his bike, the next, his hand was around Derek's throat, lifting him off the ground. "I don't care who you are." Each word was a controlled explosion. "I don't care who you know. I don't care what connections you think you have. What I care about is the woman bleeding on the ground. And if you don't walk away right now, you're going to need connections to identify your body." Derek's face turned purple. His feet kicked helplessly in the air. "Can't breathe. That's the point." "Bear." Another biker stepped forward, a younger man with a worried expression. "Put him down. We don't need this heat." For a long moment, the big man didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on Derek's face, and there was something in them that made Elena's blood run cold. This man had killed before. She was certain of it, and he was deciding whether to do it again. Finally, he released his grip. Derek crumpled to the ground, gasping and coughing. He scrambled backward on his hands and knees, his earlier bravado completely evaporated. This isn't over, he wheezed. You hear me? This isn't over. The big man took one step toward him, and Derek broke. He ran, actually ran, sprinting around the building and disappearing into the night like the coward he'd always been. Elena watched him go, not quite believing what had just happened. In 5 years, she'd never seen Derek run from anything. In 5 years, she'd never seen anyone stand up to him. The big man turned to her and his entire demeanor changed. The predator disappeared, replaced by something gentler, something almost fatherly. Can you stand? Elena tried, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. The pain in her ribs was too intense, each breath a fresh agony. Easy. He knelt beside her, his movements surprisingly careful for such a large man. Don't try to move too fast. Let me see. I'm okay. The lie came automatically programmed by years of survival. No, you're not. And that's okay. You don't have to pretend anymore. The words broke something in Elena. A dam she'd been building for 5 years, holding back an ocean of tears and terror and hopelessness. It all came flooding out at once, and suddenly she was sobbing against this stranger's leather vest, her whole body shaking with the force of her grief. He held her, just held her like no one had held her in years. Not asking questions, not demanding explanations, just present, solid, safe. I'm Bear, he said finally when her sobs had quieted to whimpers. Marcus Thornton, these are my brothers. We're not going to let him hurt you again. You don't understand. Elena pulled back, wiping her eyes. He'll come back. He always comes back. And when he does, then we'll be here. You can't. You don't know him. You don't know what he's capable of. Bear's eyes hardened. I know exactly what men like him are capable of, better than you know. There was something in his voice, something deep and wounded and old. Grace, he called over his shoulder. Get over here. A woman emerged from the group of bikers. Elena hadn't noticed her before, hadn't realized there were any women among them. She was in her late 30s, with short dark hair and kind eyes. She wore the same leather vest as the men, but her patches were different. Oh, honey. Grace knelt beside Elena, her voice thick with compassion. Let's get you cleaned up. Okay, I used to be a nurse. I just want to make sure nothing's broken. I can't afford a hospital. Who said anything about a hospital? Grace smiled gently. We take care of our own, and right now, that includes you. I'm not one of you. You are tonight. 2 of the other bikers helped Elena to her feet. The pain was intense but manageable now that the adrenaline was fading. They guided her to a van that had pulled in behind the motorcycles, settling her carefully in the back seat. Bear appeared at the window. We're going to take you somewhere safe, somewhere he can't find you. Is that okay? Elena hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse to go home to face the devil she knew rather than trust these strangers. But then she remembered Derek's boot hitting her ribs, remembered his words, nobody cares about you. Nobody ever has. Maybe he was wrong. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The drive took 20 minutes. Elena drifted in and out of consciousness, the events of the night catching up with her. When the van finally stopped, she found herself in front of a large warehouse that had been converted into something else. A clubhouse, she realized. The home base of the Iron Wolves. They helped her inside past a main room filled with pool tables and a bar down a hallway lined with photographs and memorabilia. Grace led her to a small but clean room with a bed, a dresser, and a window that looked out on the parking lot. This is one of our guest rooms, Grace explained. You can stay here as long as you need. I can't pay you. Did anyone ask for payment? Grace's eyes were fierce. Listen to me, Elena. What happened to you tonight? What's been happening to you for however long? That's not your fault. You understand. None of it is your fault. Elena wanted to believe her. God, she wanted to believe her. But 5 years of Derek's voice in her head made it impossible. He's going to find me, she said instead. And when he does, he's going to kill me, and anyone who helped me. Let him try. The voice came from the doorway. Bear stood there, filling the frame with his massive presence. Derek Vance. He said the name like it tasted bad. I made some calls while you were driving over. He owes money to Victor Crane. Lot of money. Elena's blood ran cold. You know about Victor. Everyone in this town knows about Victor. He runs every illegal gambling operation from here to Austin, and apparently your husband is $50,000 in the hole. 50,000? Elena's voice came out as a squeak. He told me it was 10. He told you a lot of things, didn't he? Bear's expression softened. Crane's not someone you want owing you money. Derek's desperate, which means he's dangerous, but it also means he's got bigger problems than you right now. For now, but eventually is a problem for another day. Right now you need to rest. You need to heal. And you need to know that as long as you're under this roof, no one is going to hurt you. That's a promise. Elena looked at this man, this stranger, this biker, who had appeared out of nowhere and turned her world upside down. Why? Why are you doing this? You don't know me. Bear was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. I had a daughter once. Her name was Lily. She was beautiful, smart, funny. She had her whole life ahead of her. She married a man just like your Derek. Charming at first, then controlling, then violent. He paused, swallowing hard. I tried to help her, tried to get her to leave, but she kept going back, kept believing he would change. Elena felt tears welling up again. What happened? 3 years ago, he beat her to death. By the time I got there, she was gone. The words hung in the air like a curse. Elena saw the pain in his eyes, raw and unhealed despite the passage of time. I couldn't save my daughter, Bear continued. I have to live with that every day, but tonight, when I heard you scream when I saw you on the ground, I wasn't going to fail again. Not this time. He turned and walked away, leaving Elena alone with Grace and the weight of his confession. He doesn't talk about Lily, Grace said quietly. Not to anyone. The fact that he told you, it means you matter to him already, and when something matters to Bear, he protects it with everything he has. Grace helped Elena change out of her torn, bloody uniform and into clean clothes. She examined her ribs, pronounced them bruised, but not broken, and applied antiseptic to the cuts on her face and hands. Try to get some sleep, Grace said when she was finished. I'll be right next door if you need anything. Anything at all. Grace. Elena's voice stopped her at the door. Thank you. I don't know why you're all being so kind to me. Grace smiled sadly. Because someone should have been kind to you a long time ago. Sweet dreams, Elena. Tomorrow's a new day. She closed the door gently behind her. Elena lay in the darkness, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the clubhouse. Muffled voices, distant laughter, the occasional roar of a motorcycle coming or going. She should have been terrified. She was in a strange place, surrounded by strangers with a violent husband who would be looking for her. She should have been making plans to escape, to run, to disappear. Instead, for the first time in 5 years, she felt something she'd almost forgotten existed. Safe. She was safe. The tears came again, but they were different this time. Not tears of pain or fear, but tears of relief, of gratitude, of something that might, if she was very lucky, be hope. Elena Martinez closed her eyes and slept. She didn't know that Derek was already making calls. She didn't know that Victor Crane had just issued an ultimatum. She didn't know that the next few weeks would bring her face to face with evil beyond anything she'd ever imagined. But she also didn't know that she would find family in the most unlikely place, that she would discover strength she never knew she possessed, that she would help bring down a criminal empire, and that she would learn finally what it meant to be truly loved. All she knew in that moment was that someone had heard her scream, and someone had answered. Outside her window, Bear sat on the clubhouse steps staring up at the stars. His phone was in his hand, still showing the text message he'd received from an unknown number. The girl is mine. Give her back or I burn your whole club to the ground. Bear deleted the message and lit a cigarette. Let them come, he muttered to the night air. Let them all come. He'd failed Lily. He'd let his daughter die because he didn't act fast enough, didn't push hard enough, didn't do whatever it took to save her. He wouldn't make that mistake again. Whatever it took. Whatever the cost. Elena Martinez was going to survive, even if it killed him. Elena woke in the middle of the night to find a folded piece of paper had been slipped under her door. Her heart seized with terror, old instincts screaming that Derek had found her already. But when she unfolded the note, she found not a threat, but a promise. You are not alone anymore, the Iron Wolves. And beneath it, in different handwriting, P.S. Breakfast is at 7 a.m. Bear makes terrible pancakes, but don't tell him I said that. Hammer. Despite everything, Elena found herself smiling. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She didn't know if she would survive the coming storm. But for the first time in 5 years, she wanted to find out. Elena woke to the smell of burning pancakes and the sound of men arguing. I told you to flip it earlier, Bear. Now look at it. It's not burnt, it's caramelized. That's not caramelization, that's carbon. You want to cook hammer, be my guest. I would, but last time I touched your spatula, you threatened to make me eat it. Elena sat up slowly, wincing as pain shot through her ribs. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The room was unfamiliar. The bed wasn't hers, and the voices outside the door belonged to strangers. Then everything came flooding back. Derek. The parking lot. The blood. The scream. The bikers. She looked down at her hands. The cuts had been cleaned and bandaged. Someone had taken care of her while she slept. Someone had kept watch. A soft knock at the door made her jump. Elena, it's Grace, you decent... Yes, come in. Grace entered with a warm smile and a bundle of clean clothes. Morning, honey. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. Well, close enough. Grace set the clothes on the bed. These should fit. Showers down the hall, second door on the left. Take your time. Breakfast will be ready when you are. Grace... Elena hesitated. Last night. Was that real? Every bit of it. And Bear, did he really lift your husband off the ground by his throat? Yeah, that's kind of his thing. Grace's smile faded slightly. Derek hasn't tried to contact you, has he? Phone calls, texts, anything. Elena reached for her phone on the nightstand. Her hands trembled as she checked it. 47 missed calls, 92 text messages, and 1 voicemail. Don't listen to that. Grace's voice was sharp. Whatever he has to say, it's manipulation. That's all it ever is. I know. I just... Elena stared at the screen. Part of me wants to hear it. Isn't that sick? After everything he's done, part of me still wants to hear his voice. That's not sick. That's trauma bonding. It's what he's trained you to feel. Grace sat on the edge of the bed. Elena, I've seen this before. More times than I can count. The cycle of abuse doesn't just hurt your body. It rewires your brain. Makes you think you need the person who's destroying you. How do you know so much about this? Grace was quiet for a moment. Because I used to be you. The words hung in the air between them. His name was Richard, Grace continued. We were married for 7 years. I thought I loved him. Turns out I just loved the idea of who he pretended to be. She pulled down the collar of her shirt, revealing a scar that ran along her collarbone. He gave me this the night I finally left. Said if I walked out that door, he'd make sure I never walked again. What did you do? I walked out anyway. Grace's eyes hardened. And then Bear put Richard in the hospital for 6 months. He's been my brother in every way that matters ever since. Elena felt tears threatening again. I don't know how to be brave like that. You already are. You screamed for help, didn't you? You let strangers take you somewhere safe. You woke up this morning. Grace squeezed her hand. That's brave. Everything else we figure out together. The shower was hot and the water pressure was perfect. Elena stood under the stream for longer than necessary, watching the last traces of blood swirl down the drain. Each bruise on her body told a story. The cigarette burn on her shoulder from 3 months ago when Derek lost at blackjack. The scar on her hip from the time she spoke to the mailman for too long. The faded marks around her wrists from the night he handcuffed her to the bed and left her there for 12 hours. 5 years of stories. 5 years of pain. But today was different. Today, she wasn't alone. When Elena finally emerged into the main room of the clubhouse, she found herself facing a wall of leather-clad humanity. The bikers were all there, seated around a massive wooden table, plates of questionably cooked breakfast in front of them. Bear stood at the head of the table. "Elena, sit, eat." It wasn't a request. She took the empty chair next to Grace, suddenly aware of every eye in the room studying her. She recognized the young man who had warned Bear to put Derek down last night. He gave her a small, encouraging smile. "Everyone, this is Elena," Bear announced. "Elena, this is everyone. Introductions can wait. Food can't." A plate appeared in front of her. Eggs, bacon toast, and yes, the infamous burned pancakes. Her stomach growled loudly, and several of the bikers chuckled. "When's the last time you ate?" Grace asked quietly. Elena tried to remember. "Yesterday morning. Maybe Derek controlled the food in the house. I ate when he let me." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "He starved you." The words came from the largest man Elena had ever seen. He had to be pushing 300 pounds, all of it muscle with tattoos covering every visible inch of skin. His hands wrapped around a coffee mug looked capable of crushing skulls. "Hammer." Bear's voice carried a warning. "No, Bear. I want to hear this." Hammer leaned forward, his eyes locked on Elena. "He hit you, he kicked you, and he starved you. What else?" Elena's throat constricted. You don't have to answer that," Grace interjected. "Yes, she does." Hammer didn't back down. "Because if we're going to protect her, we need to know what we're dealing with. What else did he do?" The room waited. Elena looked at these strangers, these rough men with their leather and their tattoos and their intimidating presence. Every instinct told her to lie, to minimize, to protect Derek the way she'd always protected him. But she was so tired of protecting him. "Everything," she whispered. "He did everything." Hammer's jaw clenched. "Define everything." "He burned me with cigarettes when I talked back. He broke my fingers when I tried to call my mother. Her voice cracked. "He locked me in the closet for 2 days when I mentioned leaving. He told me if I ever went to the police, he would kill my entire family and make me watch." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Then Hammer stood up so fast his chair crashed backward. "I'm going to find him, right now. Tonight this ends." "Sit down." Bear's command cracked like a whip. "You heard what she said? That animal. I said sit down." The two men stared at each other, tension crackling between them. For a moment, Elena thought Hammer would disobey, but then slowly he righted his chair and sat. "We don't move without a plan," Bear continued. "Derek's not working alone. He owes Victor Crane $50,000. You know what that means." Hammer's face paled slightly. "Crane's involved, up to his neck. And if we go after Derek without thinking this through, we're not just fighting one woman-beating piece of garbage. We're taking on Crane's entire operation. Then we take on his entire operation." The voice came from the far end of the table. Elena turned to see an elderly man, easily 70 years old, with a white beard and eyes that had seen too much. Despite his age, he radiated authority. "Old-timer," Bear acknowledged. "You sure about that? Crane's been a cancer in this town for 20 years. His gambling dens, his loans, sharking the lives he's destroyed." Old-timer's voice was steady as stone. "We've looked the other way long enough. If protecting this girl means finally cutting out the cancer, then I say it's about damn time." Murmurs of agreement rippled around the table. "It's too dangerous." Elena's own voice surprised her. "I can't ask you to risk your lives for me. I should just go, disappear somewhere, change my name, and spend the rest of your life running." Bear shook his head. "That's not living, Elena. That's surviving. There's a difference. But if something happens to any of you because of me, then it happens." Bear's eyes met hers, unwavering. "We're the Iron Wolves. We protect our territory. We protect our family. And like it or not, your family now." "Why? You don't even know me." Bear was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his vest and pulled out a worn photograph. He slid it across the table to Elena. A young woman smiled up at her from the picture, beautiful with Bear's eyes and a radiant smile. "That's Lily," Bear said. "My daughter. She was 26 when she died, same age as you." Elena looked at the photograph, then at Bear. "I'm 28. "Close enough." His voice roughened. "I see her in you. The fear in your eyes, the way you flinch at loud noises, the way you apologize for existing. I saw all of that in Lily, and I did nothing. I told myself she needed to make her own choices, that I couldn't force her to leave. I gave her space when I should have given her salvation." He took the photograph back, handling it like it was made of glass. "I won't make that mistake again. Not with you. Not with anyone." Elena felt something shift inside her, something that had been locked away for 5 years, buried under layers of fear and self-loathing. Hope. The moment was interrupted by the sound of engines outside, multiple engines growing louder. Every biker in the room tensed. "Were we expecting company?" Hammer asked, already on his feet. "No." Bear moved toward the window. "Everyone positions. Grace, get Elena to the back room." "What's happening?" Elena's heart raced as Grace grabbed her arm. "Probably nothing. Probably just some of the guys from the Henderson chapter." But Grace's face said otherwise. "Come on, quickly." They hurried down the hallway, past the room where Elena had slept, to a reinforced door at the very back of the building. Grace punched in a code, and the door swung open to reveal what looked like a safe room. Concrete walls, no windows, multiple supplies stacked on shelves. "Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone except me or Bear." "Understood." Grace understood. "Yes." Grace closed the door, and Elena heard the lock engage from outside. She was alone. The minutes crawled by. Elena pressed her ear to the door, straining to hear anything. Muffled voices, raised tones, then nothing. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, expecting another barrage from Derek. Instead, she saw a message from an unknown number. "Hello, Elena. My name is Victor Crane. I believe we have a mutual problem." Her blood turned to ice. Another message appeared. "Your husband owes me a great deal of money he cannot pay, so I've decided to collect in other ways." Then another. "You have something I want. I have something you need. Perhaps we can make a deal." Elena's fingers trembled as she typed back, "What do you want?" The reply came instantly. "Come home to Derek. Convince your new biker friends to stay out of my business. Do these things, and I won't burn that clubhouse to the ground with everyone inside." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Look out the window, Elena." "Oh, wait, you can't. You're locked in a safe room like a good little girl." He knew where she was. He knew exactly where she was. The final message made her blood run cold. "You have 48 hours. After that, I start killing wolves, one by one, beginning with the pretty nurse who showed you to your room." Grace. He was threatening Grace. The door burst open and Elena screamed, dropping her phone. "Easy, it's me." Grace's hands were up her face, pale. "We need to move, now." What happened? Who was outside? Crane's men. 4 of them. They delivered a message. Grace grabbed Elena's arm. "They had photographs, Elena, of the clubhouse, of us, of you." "I know, he texted me." Elena showed Grace the phone. "He's giving me 48 hours to go back to Derek." Grace read the messages, her expression darkening with each one. "That son of a..." "He threatened to kill you, Grace. By name. He knows who you are." "Of course he does. Crane knows everyone in this town." Grace took a breath, steadying herself. "This doesn't change anything. It changes everything. I have to go back. I can't let people die because of me. Listen to me." Grace gripped her shoulders. "If you go back to Derek, you die. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. Men like him don't stop. They escalate until there's nothing left to break. But if you stay, we fight. Together. That's what we do." Grace's eyes blazed. Do you think you're the first person Crane has threatened? He's been terrorizing this town for 2 decades. The difference now is that someone is finally willing to stand up to him. The Iron Wolves. The Iron Wolves. And you, if you're willing. Elena thought about the last 5 years. The beatings, the starvation, the isolation, the slow, systematic destruction of everything she once was. She thought about Lily, the daughter Bear couldn't save. She thought about the photograph and the sadness in Bear's eyes when he looked at it. She thought about the safe room she was standing in, built specifically to protect people like her. And she thought about what it would mean to keep running, to spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, to let Derek win, to let Crane win, to let fear win. "I'm willing," she said. "I'm terrified, but I'm willing." Grace smiled. It was a fierce, proud smile. "Good. Now let's go." Bears called a war council. The main room had transformed. Maps covered the walls. Laptops sat open on the table. The bikers moved with military precision, each one clearly assigned to a specific task. Bear stood at the center of it all, a general commanding his troops. "Elena," he waved her over. "You need to see this." On the laptop in front of him, she saw surveillance footage. A familiar building, a familiar parking lot. Her blood chilled. "That's my apartment." "Was your apartment?" Bear zoomed in on the footage. "Crane's men have been watching it since last night. They're expecting you to come back." "How do you have this footage?" "Rookie." Bear nodded toward the young biker Elena had noticed earlier. "He's our tech specialist, former Army intelligence. There isn't a system he can't hack." Rookie gave her a small wave. "I've got access to every traffic cam, ATM camera, and security feed within a 5-mile radius of Crane's operations. If he sneezes, I'll know about it." "And Derek?" Elena asked. "Where is he?" Rookie pulled up another feed. A run-down motel on the edge of town. Room 14. Through the window, she could see Derek pacing, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing wildly. "He's been there all night," Rookie said. "Making calls, drinking, freaking out. Crane's men visited him about an hour ago. Whatever they told him, it wasn't good. Can you get audio?" "Working on it." Rookie's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Give me 5 minutes." Bear turned to Elena. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay. Is there anything else we should know about Derek, about Crane? Any connection between them we haven't considered?" Elena thought hard. "Derek's been gambling with Crane's operation for about 3 years. That's how we got so deep in debt. But there's something else." "Go on." "Last month, Derek came home excited, said he had a way to clear all his debts. He was going to do some kind of job for Crane." Bear's eyes sharpened. "What kind of job?" "He wouldn't tell me. But afterward, he had more money than I'd ever seen. Cash. Bundles of it. He blew through most of it in a week, but what? But he kept talking about the next shipment. Said if he did a few more runs, he'd be set for life." Bear and Hammer exchanged a look. "Shipments," Hammer repeated. "Crane's expanding." "It makes sense," Bear said. "The gambling operations have been a front for years. But if he's moving product now, then Derek's not just a debtor. He's an employee. And Elena's not just a runaway wife." Old Timer stepped forward, his face grim. "She's a liability, a potential witness." Elena's stomach dropped. "Witness to what I don't know anything." "Doesn't matter what you know," Old Timer said. "Matters what they think you know, and right now they think you know enough to destroy them. That's why Crane gave you 48 hours, Bear realized. He's not trying to get you back to Derek. He's trying to get you somewhere he can control the outcome." "You mean somewhere he can kill me?" No one denied it. "So what do we do?" Elena asked, her voice steady despite her terror. Bear looked at his brothers, then back at her. "We do what we always do. We protect our own, and then we burn their whole operation to the ground." "How?" "Got it?" Rookie's voice cut through the tension. "I've got audio from Derek's motel room." Everyone gathered around the laptop. Static crackled, then cleared. Derek's voice filled the room, high and panicked. "You don't understand. She's gone. Those bikers took her." another voice cold and calm. That's not my problem, Derek. You owe Mr. Crane $50,000. He's offered you a way to clear your debt. Bring back your wife, keep the bikers quiet, and you're free. And if I can't, then Mr. Crane will take payment in other forms. Your fingers first, then your eyes, then whatever's left. You can't do this. I've done everything he asked. The deliveries, the drops. And you'll continue doing them after you solve this problem. The recording ended. Elena looked at Bear. His face was unreadable. He mentioned deliveries, she said. Drops. What does that mean? It means your husband is more involved in Crane's operation than we thought. Bear's jaw tightened. It also means we have leverage. Leverage. Derek knows things. Delivery routes, drop points, contacts. Information like that could bring down Crane's entire network. You want to use Derek. I want to destroy them both. Bear's eyes met hers. But first, I need to know something. If it comes down to it, could you testify against your husband? Could you stand up in a courtroom and tell the world everything he's done? Elena thought about the cigarette burns, the broken fingers, the closet, the fear. Yes, she said. I could. Then we have a chance. Bear turned to his brothers. All right, listen up. We've got 48 hours before Crane makes his move. That's 48 hours to gather evidence, fortify our position, and find a way to take down the biggest criminal operation in Central Texas. How? Hammer asked. Bear smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. We're going to give Crane exactly what he wants. Which is Elena. We're going to give him Elena. The room exploded in protests. Grace stepped forward, her face furious. Have you lost your mind? Trust me. Bear raised his hands for quiet. I'm not sacrificing anyone, but Crane doesn't know that. All he knows is that he wants Elena, and we have her. You're using her as bait, Hammer realized. I'm using Crane's obsession against him. Bear looked at Elena. This only works if you agree. If you say no, we find another way. But this is our best chance at ending this for good. Elena looked around the room. At Grace, who had shown her kindness. At Hammer, who was ready to kill for her. At Old Timer, who had watched this town suffer for too long. At Rookie, barely more than a kid willing to fight. At Bear, who had already lost one daughter and was determined not to lose another. What do I have to do? She asked. For now, nothing. Rest. Heal. Let us work out the details. Bear put a hand on her shoulder. When the time comes, I'll explain everything. But I promise you this, I will not let anything happen to you. On my daughter's grave, I swear it. Elena believed him. Against all logic, against all experience, against everything Derek had taught her about trust. She believed him. Okay, she said. I'm in. Good. Bear nodded once. Now everyone get to work. We've got 47 hours and 53 minutes left. The bikers dispersed, each moving to their assigned tasks. Grace led Elena back toward her room. At the door, Elena paused. Grace. Yeah. What if this doesn't work? What if Crane wins? Grace considered the question carefully. Then we go down fighting. But I'll tell you something, my grandmother used to say, God doesn't give us more than we can handle. He just sometimes forgets how strong we are. Your grandmother sounds wise. She was. She also kept a shotgun under her bed and wasn't afraid to use it. Grace winked. Get some rest, Elena. Tomorrow the real fight begins. As the door closed, Elena sat on the bed and finally let herself breathe. 47 hours until everything changed. 47 hours until she faced her demons. 47 hours until she discovered whether the Iron Wolf's protection was strong enough to save her, or whether Derek and Crane would finish what they started. Her phone buzzed one more time, a text from Derek, this time not Crane. I'll find you, Elena. I'll always find you. And when I do, you'll wish you'd never been born. She typed back 2 words she'd never had the courage to say before, come try. Then she blocked his number. 23 hours remained on Crane's deadline when everything fell apart. Elena was helping Grace sort medical supplies in the back room when Rookie burst through the door, his face white as chalk. Bear, you need to see this." The entire clubhouse mobilized in seconds. Elena followed Grace to the main room where Rookie was pulling up footage on his laptop with trembling hands. "I've been monitoring Derek's motel room like you asked," Rookie explained, his voice cracking. 10 minutes ago this happened." The screen showed Derek's motel room. 2 men entered, both wearing black masks. They grabbed Derek, who screamed and fought, but he was no match for them. One of the masked men held up a phone showing Derek something on the screen. Derek went limp. Then they dragged him out. "They took him," Hammer said. "Crane took his own guy. There's more." Rookie fast-forwarded. This was delivered to the gas station where Elena used to work. The night manager found it 5 minutes ago. He clicked play on a video file. Victor Crane's face filled the screen. He was maybe 50 with silver hair and cold blue eyes. He looked like someone's grandfather. Someone's wealthy, respectable grandfather. The kind of man who donated to charities and attended church. Elena knew better. Evil rarely looked the part. "Good evening," Crane said, his voice smooth as silk. "By now you've noticed that Derek is no longer at his motel. Please don't worry. He's safe. For now." The camera panned to show Derek tied to a chair, blood dripping from his nose. His eyes were wild with terror. "Here's my new offer," Crane continued. "Elena Martinez comes to me within 12 hours. Not 48, 12. She comes alone, she comes unarmed, and she comes directly to the address I'm about to provide." He leaned closer to the camera. "If she doesn't, I'll send her husband back to her in pieces, starting with the fingers he used to hit her." Poetic justice, don't you think? The video ended. Nobody spoke. Elena stared at the frozen image of Derek's terrified face. The man who had tortured her for 5 years. The man who had kicked her in that parking lot. The man who had promised to kill her. He looked so small now, so pathetic. "We don't negotiate with terrorists," Hammer growled. "Let Crane carve him up. Derek deserves worse." "It's not that simple," Old-Timer said. "If Elena doesn't show, Crane will escalate. He'll come after us directly. Let him come." "With what army, Hammer?" "We've got 12 guys. Crane has connections to half the criminals in Texas. This isn't a fight we win with fists." "Then what do you suggest we hand her over?" "Of course not. I'm suggesting we think before we act." Bear had been silent through the entire exchange, his eyes fixed on the laptop screen. Now he looked up and Elena saw something she hadn't seen before. Doubt. "Bear." Grace touched his arm. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Crane made a mistake." Bear's voice was quiet, but everyone stopped to listen. He shortened the timeline. "Why?" "To pressure us," Hammer said. "No, he already had pressure. 48 hours was plenty. Something changed." "Like what?" Bear turned to Rookie. "Pull up everything you can find on Crane's operation. Shipments, deliveries, anything scheduled for the next 72 hours. Rookie's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Give me a minute. There. Holy crap." "What?" "There's a massive shipment coming in tomorrow night. According to these encrypted messages, it's the biggest delivery Crane's ever handled. We're talking millions of dollars worth of..." Rookie paused, his face going pale. "Oh God. What is it?" "It's not drugs. It's not guns." Rookie looked up, horror in his eyes. "It's people, Bear. Crane's trafficking people." The room went dead silent. Elena felt her stomach revolt. Human trafficking. Derek had been helping transport human beings like cargo. And she had been married to him, had shared a bed with him, had let him touch her. That's why he moved up the timeline, Bear realized. He can't afford any loose ends before this shipment arrives. Elena's not just a liability anymore. She's a threat to his entire operation. Because of what Derek might have told her, because of what she might have seen, what she might remember, Bear turned to Elena. "Think hard. In the last few months, did Derek ever bring anyone to the house, anyone who seemed scared or confused or didn't speak English?" Elena's mind raced. No one like that. But what? But there was a night, maybe 2 months ago. Derek came home at 3 a.m. covered in mud. He was panicked, talking on the phone about the cargo getting loose. I thought he meant drugs. I never imagined. Did he say where? An old farm. Henderson property, I think he called it. Rookie was already typing. Henderson Farm, abandoned since 2018. 5 miles north of town, completely isolated. He pulled up satellite images. Bear, there are vehicles there. A lot of vehicles. That's where he's keeping them, Bear said. The people he's trafficking. And probably Derek, too. And probably where he wants me to go, Elena added. Everyone looked at her. The address Crane gave. I'll bet anything it's that farm. Rookie checked. She's right, Henderson Farm. He's luring her right into his operation. Then that's where we hit him, Hammer said. Tonight, before the shipment arrives. We're outnumbered and outgunned, Old Timer reminded him. Then we get more guns. It's not that simple. Enough. Bear's voice cut through the argument. Elena, I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer. Anything. If we do this, if we go after Crane tonight, people are going to get hurt, maybe killed, on both sides. His eyes bored into hers. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared for what might happen? Elena thought about the people trapped at that farm. People like her held against their will, waiting to be sold like cattle. She thought about what her life would be if the Iron Wolves hadn't found her. She thought about Lily and Grace and every woman who had ever screamed for help and received none. Yes, she said, I'm prepared. Even if it means Derek dies. The question hit her like a physical blow. Derek, her husband. The man who had destroyed her, but also the man she had once loved. The man she had promised to cherish until death. If he dies, she said slowly, it won't be because of me. It'll be because of choices he made. Choices that put innocent people in cages. Bear nodded. Good answer. He turned to his brothers, and for the first time, Elena saw the warrior beneath the protector. Listen up. We're going to war tonight. Crane thinks he's got us cornered, thinks we're going to play by his rules. He's wrong. What's the plan? Hammer asked. We give him exactly what he asked for. Elena goes to the farm. Bear, Grace's voice was sharp. You can't, not alone, Bear continued. We go in first. Scout the perimeter, neutralize the guards, free whoever Crane's holding. Then Elena arrives, keeps Crane distracted while we close the trap. That's insane, Grace protested. You're using her as bait again. I'm using Crane's obsession against him. He wants Elena so badly he's willing to risk his entire operation. That makes him sloppy. That makes him vulnerable. And if something goes wrong... Bear looked at Elena, really looked at her. Then I die making sure she gets out, same as I would have died for Lily. The words hung in the air heavy with meaning. Elena stepped forward. I'll do it, whatever you need. You sure, once this starts, there's no going back? I've been going back my whole life, running back to Derek, running back to fear, running back to the lie that I deserved what happened to me. She straightened her shoulders. Not anymore. Tonight I stop running. Bear smiled. It was a fierce, proud smile. That's my girl. The next 4 hours were a blur of preparation. Weapons were checked and loaded, body armor was distributed, communication devices were tested, maps of the Henderson farm were studied until every wolf knew the layout by heart. Elena watched it all with a mixture of terror and awe. These men were preparing for battle. For her. Grace found her sitting alone in the hallway, knees pulled to her chest. Hey! Grace slid down the wall to sit beside her. How are you holding up? Terrified. But also, Elena searched for the right word. Alive. I haven't felt this alive in years. Adrenaline will do that. It's not just adrenaline, it's purpose. For the first time since I married Derek, I feel like I'm doing something that matters. Grace was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? Of course. When Bear found me, I was worse than you. I'd given up completely. Richard had broken me so thoroughly that I didn't believe I was worth saving. Bear had to carry me out of that house because I couldn't walk, wouldn't walk. What changed? Time, support, therapy. But mostly, Grace smiled. Mostly it was realizing that my survival wasn't just about me. Every time I helped another woman escape, every time I looked an abuser in the eye and told him he couldn't hurt anyone anymore, I healed a little more. You'll find the same thing, Elena. Helping others helps you. If I survive tonight, you will. Grace gripped her hand. I didn't save you from Derek just to lose you to Crane. You're going to make it through this, and then you're going to build a life so beautiful that every moment of pain becomes worth it. You really believe that? I know it. I've lived it. Bear appeared at the end of the hallway. It's time. The convoy left at midnight. 7 motorcycles, 1 van, 12 wolves, and 1 terrified woman who had decided to stop being a victim. The ride to Henderson Farm took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of wind and darkness and the roar of engines. 20 minutes for Elena to question every decision that had led her here. But she didn't turn back. A mile from the farm, the convoy stopped. Bear gathered everyone for final instructions. Rookie, you're on surveillance. Keep eyes on every entrance and exit. Anyone tries to leave you, let us know. Got it. Hammer, you take 3 men and approach from the north. That's where they're keeping the prisoners. Your job is extraction. Get those people out safely, no matter what. Hammer nodded grimly. Old Timer, you and 2 others take the south. That's where Crane's men are concentrated. Keep them busy. Draw their attention away from the main building. Understood. Grace, you stay with the van. Anyone who gets hurt, you patch them up. Anyone who gets free, you get them out. And Elena? Grace asked. Bear looked at her. Elena stays with me. We go in the front door. Crane wants to meet her. He's going to get his wish. Bear, that's suicide. It's confidence. Bear's eyes glittered. Crane's expecting a scared woman alone. He's going to get an army. They moved through the darkness like ghosts. Elena stayed close to Bear, her heart pounding so loud she was sure someone would hear it. The farm materialized out of the night. An old barn, a decrepit farmhouse, several outbuildings, and everywhere guards. Elena counted at least 8 before Bear pulled her behind a rusted tractor. More than expected, he muttered. Is that bad? It means Crane's nervous. Nervous men make mistakes. A crackle came through their earpieces. Rookie's voice. Bear, I've got visuals inside the barn. At least 20 people in cages. Men, women, kids. Some of them look hurt. Bear's jaw tightened. Hammer, you hearing this? Loud and clear. Moving into position. Old Timer. Ready when you are. Bear turned to Elena. Last chance to back out. She shook her head. I'm seeing this through. Then let's go introduce ourselves. They approached the farmhouse from the east, staying low, using the shadows. 2 guards stood by the front door, smoking cigarettes and laughing about something. They stopped laughing when Bear emerged from the darkness. The fight was over in seconds. Bear moved with brutal efficiency, dropping both guards before they could reach for their weapons. He caught the first one with an elbow to the throat, then spun and slammed the second one's head against the door frame. Neither man got up. Stay behind me, Bear whispered, drawing his gun. No matter what happens, stay behind me. They entered the farmhouse. The first room was empty except for scattered furniture and the smell of cigarettes. Bear moved through it quickly, checking corners, listening for movement. A door at the end of the hallway opened. Victor Crane stepped out, flanked by 4 armed men. He looked exactly like he had in the video, grandfatherly, distinguished, completely ordinary. Except for his eyes. His eyes were the coldest things Elena had ever seen. Mr. Thornton, Crane said pleasantly, I must say I expected you earlier, and with more men. I like to travel light. So I see. Crane's gaze shifted to Elena. Mrs. Martinez, how lovely to finally meet you. Your husband has told me so much about you. Where is he? Elena asked, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. Derek. He's resting. The journey here was stressful for him. Crane smiled. But we'll reunite you shortly. I'm sure you have much to discuss. I'm not here to discuss anything with Derek. I'm here to end this. Crane's eyebrows rose. End this? My dear, this hasn't even begun. Do you have any idea what you've stumbled into? The money at stake? The lives? I know you're trafficking people. I know there are innocent men, women, and children locked in your barn. And I know that by morning the FBI will have everything they need to put you away for life. For the first time, something flickered in Crane's cold eyes. FBI. Rookie's been collecting evidence for hours, Bear said. Every delivery, every payment, every name connected to your operation. It's all been sent to a federal agent we trust. By now, she's probably getting warrants signed. Crane's composure cracked. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your phone. See if any of your contacts are responding. One of Crane's men pulled out his phone, his face going pale. Boss, something's wrong. Nobody's answering. That would be the FBI raids happening across Austin right now, Bear said. Your network is collapsing, Crane. Every rat is scrambling to save himself. By tomorrow, you'll be the most wanted man in Texas. Crane's face contorted with rage. You think you've won? You think taking down a few of my men changes anything? I've been running this state for 20 years. I own judges, cops, politicians. I'll be out before the sun rises. Maybe, Bear acknowledged, but you'll be out alone, with no operation, no money, no protection. Just another old man waiting to die in prison. Then I'll make sure I don't go alone. Crane raised his hand and his men raised their weapons. Kill them. The gunfire was deafening. Elena hit the floor as bullets tore through the air above her head. She heard Bear returning fire, heard men screaming, heard the chaos of combat erupting all around her. Then new sounds joined the symphony. Motorcycles, shouts, more gunfire from outside. Hammer and Oldtimer had arrived. Through the smoke and confusion, Elena saw Bear take down two of Crane's men. A third rushed toward her, his gun raised, but Bear was faster. He tackled the man and they crashed through a door into another room. Elena scrambled to her feet. She had to find Derek, had to know if he was still alive. She ran down the hallway, ignoring the sounds of battle behind her. Doors flew past empty rooms, storage closets, nothing. Then she reached the last door locked from outside. She threw it open. Derek sat in the corner, still tied to a chair, his face bloody and swollen. When he saw her, his eyes widened. Elena, don't talk. She looked for something to cut his bonds. A knife lay on a table nearby. She grabbed it and started sawing at the ropes. Elena, please, you have to help me. They're going to kill me. Crane said if I couldn't deliver you, he'd... I know what he said. Then why are you helping me? After everything I did to you. The rope snapped. Derek's hands fell free. Elena stepped back, the knife still in her grip. I'm not helping you because you deserve it. I'm helping you because I'm not like you. I don't let people suffer, even when they've made me suffer. Derek rubbed his wrists, staring at her like he'd never seen her before. You've changed. No, I've remembered who I was before you destroyed me. Elena, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything, but... You're right, it doesn't mean anything. She turned toward the door. Get up. We need to move. Where? Out, away, anywhere but here. They made it halfway down the hallway before Crane appeared. He was bleeding from a wound on his forehead, his expensive suit torn and dirty. His gun was pointed directly at Elena's chest. You ruined everything, he snarled. 20 years I've built this empire. 20 years and you destroyed it in one night. You destroyed it yourself. Elena's voice didn't waver. Every person you trafficked, every life you ruined, every law you broke, it was all going to catch up with you eventually. Maybe, but I'll have the satisfaction of knowing you didn't survive to see it. His finger tightened on the trigger. Derek moved faster than Elena would have thought possible. He threw himself between her and Crane, taking the bullet meant for her. The impact spun him around and he collapsed against her, blood spreading across his chest. Derek, run, he gasped. For once in your life, Elena, just run. Crane adjusted his aim, preparing to fire again. Then Bear was there. He hit Crane like a freight train, driving him into the wall with such force that the plaster cracked. The gun flew from Crane's hand. Bear's fist connected with his face once, twice, 3 times. Crane crumpled. Bear stood over him, breathing hard, his knuckles bloody. It's over. Elena knelt beside Derek, pressing her hands against his wound. Blood seeped between her fingers, warm and wet. Hold on, she said. Grace is outside. She'll help you. Don't bother. Derek coughed, blood flecking his lips. I know what I deserve. That's not for you to decide. Elena. His hand found hers. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know it doesn't change anything. I know I can never undo what I did. But I need you to know. I loved you. In my own broken, terrible way, I loved you. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I know you did. Be happy. Please, be happy. His eyes closed. Elena felt for a pulse, weak but present. He's alive, she said. Bear, he's alive. Bear was already on his radio. Grace, we need medical. Main house, second floor. Gunshot wound to the chest. On my way. Outside, the gunfire had stopped. Elena could hear new voices, authoritative commanding. The FBI had arrived. Bear helped her to her feet. It's over, Elena. You did it. We did it, she corrected. Through the window, she could see them. Dozens of people emerging from the barn, blinking in the lights of emergency vehicles. Men, women, children. Free. Because of her. Because she had screamed for help on a dark night and someone had answered. Grace appeared with a medical kit, immediately going to work on Derek. He's going to make it, she announced. Bullet missed the heart. He's lucky. Lucky, Elena repeated. The word felt strange on her tongue. Bear put his hand on her shoulder. Come on, let's get you outside. You've done enough for one night. As they walked through the ruined farmhouse past the bodies and the blood and the remnants of Victor Crane's empire, Elena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just relief, not just gratitude. Peace. She was finally truly free. The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and despair. Elena had been sitting in the same plastic chair for 6 hours, watching nurses come and go, listening to the rhythmic beeping of machines somewhere down the hall. Derek was in surgery. The bullet had nicked an artery and the doctors were fighting to save his life. She didn't know how to feel about that. Grace sat beside her, a silent presence of comfort. The other wolves had gone back to the clubhouse to deal with the aftermath, but Grace had refused to leave Elena's side. You don't have to stay, Elena said for the 10th time. And you don't have to keep telling me that. Grace handed her a cup of coffee. Drink, you're shaking. Elena looked at her hands. Grace was right. She couldn't stop trembling. I keep thinking about what he said, she whispered, that he loved me. After everything he did, he said he loved me. That's not love, Elena. That's possession. There's a difference. I know. But for a moment, when he jumped in front of that bullet, I saw the man I married. The man he was before the gambling, before the drinking, before everything went wrong. That man was always a fiction. The violence was always there, waiting. You just couldn't see it. Elena nodded slowly. I know, but it still hurts. A door opened, and a surgeon emerged, pulling off his mask. Elena shot to her feet. Mrs. Martinez? Yes. How is he? Your husband is stable. The surgery was successful, though he lost a significant amount of blood. He'll need several weeks of recovery, and there may be some permanent damage to his lung capacity. Relief and confusion warred inside Elena. Can I see him? In a few hours, once he's out of post-op. But Mrs. Martinez, there are some federal agents who want to speak with you first. Elena's stomach dropped. Federal agents. They've been waiting since you arrived. I told them you needed time, but they're insistent. Or as Grace stood up, her face hardening. She doesn't have to talk to anyone without a lawyer. It's okay, Elena said. I want to talk to them. I want this to be over. The surgeon led her to a small conference room where 2 people waited. The first was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. The second was a younger man with a tablet in his hands, clearly prepared to take notes. Mrs. Martinez. The woman extended her hand. I'm Special Agent Sarah Chen, FBI. This is Agent Rodriguez. We're leading the investigation into Victor Crane's trafficking operation. Am I in trouble? No, In fact, you're the reason we were able to move so quickly." Agent Chen gestured to a chair. "Please sit. This shouldn't take long." Elena sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Grace positioned herself by the door, arms crossed. "Let me start by saying that what you did last night was incredibly brave," Agent Chen continued. "The evidence your friends provided, combined with your willingness to confront Crane directly, allowed us to rescue 37 victims and arrest 19 members of his organization." 37, Elena's voice cracked. There were 37 people in that barn. Men, women, and children. Some had been held for weeks waiting to be transported. Others were recent acquisitions. Agent Chen's expression darkened. "This was one of the largest trafficking operations we've ever uncovered in Texas. And your husband was involved." "I know. I didn't know what he was doing. Not really. I thought it was just gambling debts." "We believe you. Derek Martinez was a courier, not a mastermind. He transported money and occasionally helped move victims from one location to another." Elena felt sick. "He helped move people like cargo." "Yes, but here's the thing, Mrs. Martinez. Your husband has information we need. Routes, contacts, connections to other operations. He's already indicated a willingness to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence." "Reduced sentence? He's going to prison." "He committed serious crimes. Multiple felonies, including human trafficking, assault, and conspiracy. Even with cooperation, he's looking at 15 to 20 years. 15 to 20 years. Elena tried to process the number. In 15 years, she would be 43. In 2048, a lifetime. "What do you need from me?" she asked. "Your testimony. Derek abused you for 5 years. That abuse is part of a pattern that connects to Crane's control over his organization. If you're willing to testify about what he did to you, it strengthens our case against both of them." "You want me to stand up in court and tell everyone what he did?" "I know it's a lot to ask, but your story matters, Elena. It shows the human cost of what these men have done." Elena looked at Grace, who gave her a small nod. "Okay," Elena said. "I'll testify, but I want something in return." Agent Chen raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "The women who were rescued. The ones who don't have anywhere to go. I want to help them." "Help them how?" "I don't know yet. A shelter maybe. Counseling. Something." Elena's voice grew stronger. "They went through what I went through. Worse, probably. They need someone who understands." Agent Chen studied her for a long moment, then smiled. "I think we can work something out. There are federal programs for victims of trafficking funding sources we can connect you with. If you're serious about this, I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Then let's talk." 3 hours later, Elena finally stood outside Derek's hospital room. She'd signed statements, provided preliminary testimony, and discussed logistics with Agent Chen until her head spun. But this was the moment she'd been dreading. Seeing him again. Grace squeezed her hand. "Want me to come with you?" "No. This is something I need to do alone." "I'll be right here." Elena pushed open the door. Derek lay in the hospital bed, pale and diminished. Machines beeped around him, monitoring his heart, his breathing, his slowly recovering body. His eyes opened when she entered. "Elena," his voice was barely a whisper. "You came. I needed to see you." "Why? After everything I did?" "Because I need closure." She moved to stand beside his bed, looking down at the man who had been her nightmare for 5 years. "And because I need you to understand something." "What?" "I'm not afraid of you anymore." Derek's eyes filled with tears. "I know. I saw it last night. When you looked at me in that room, you weren't the woman I married. You were someone stronger. I was always strong. You just tried to beat it out of me. I know. I'm sorry." "Stop apologizing." Elena's voice hardened. "Sorry doesn't fix broken ribs. Sorry doesn't undo the nights I spent locked in a closet. Sorry doesn't give me back the 5 years you stole from me." "Then what do you want me to say?" "Nothing. There's nothing you can say. But there is something you can do." "What?" "Help the FBI. Tell them everything, every name, every route, every connection you have to Crane's operation. And then spend the rest of your life making amends for what you've done. Derek was quiet for a long moment. The agents were here earlier. I told them I'd cooperate. Good. They said I'm looking at 15 years, maybe more. You're lucky it's not life. I know. He reached for her hand, but Elena stepped back. Elena, I know it doesn't matter. I know I can never undo what I did. But you saved my life last night. You didn't have to, but you did. I didn't save your life for you. I saved it because I'm not a murderer. Because letting you die would have made me as bad as you. The words hit Derek like a slap. He closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. The divorce papers will be here tomorrow, Elena continued. You're going to sign them without contest. You're going to give me everything, the apartment, the car, whatever's left of our assets. And then you're going to disappear from my life forever. And if I don't, then I'll testify about every single thing you did to me. Every cigarette burn, every broken bone, every night you raped me while I begged you to stop. Derek flinched. I didn't. You held me down and forced yourself on me. That's rape, Derek. I don't care what the law called it when we were married. I know what it was. Silence stretched between them. I'll sign, Derek whispered finally. I'll sign whatever you want. Good. Elena turned toward the door, then paused. One more thing. What? I want you to know that I'm going to be happy. I'm going to build a life so beautiful that you can't even imagine it. And every time you sit in your prison cell, I want you to think about that. I want you to know that you didn't destroy me. You just delayed me. She walked out without looking back. Grace was waiting in the hallway. How'd it go? It's done. He's going to sign the papers. How do you feel? Elena considered the question. Free. I finally feel free. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Elena moved into the Iron Wolves clubhouse, permanently taking over a small room that Grace helped her decorate. She met with lawyers, signed endless documents, and gave formal testimony to the FBI about her years with Derek. Victor Crane was denied bail. The evidence against him was overwhelming financial records, witness testimony, and the rescued victims, who had identified him as the man who ordered their captivity. His trial was set for 3 months away, and prosecutors were confident he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Derek was transferred to a federal facility after his recovery. True to his word, he cooperated fully with investigators, providing information that led to 17 additional arrests across Texas. His sentence was reduced to 12 years. Elena didn't visit him. She didn't write. She moved forward as if he had never existed. But it was the work with the trafficking survivors that truly saved her. Agent Chen had connected her with a federal victims advocacy program, and Elena threw herself into helping the women who had been rescued from Henderson Farm. She held their hands during police interviews. She found them temporary housing. She listened to their stories without judgment, understanding in a way that no one else could. You're good at this, Grace observed one afternoon, watching Elena comfort a young woman who had just given testimony about her captors. Really good. I understand what they're going through. The fear, the shame, the feeling that no one will believe you. Is that why you're doing it, to process your own trauma? Partly, but also because someone should have been there for me. Someone should have seen what Derek was doing and helped me escape. I didn't have that person. I want to be that person for someone else. Grace smiled. You know, when Bear brought you to us, I wasn't sure you'd make it. You were so broken, so scared. But look at you now. I had help. I couldn't have done any of this alone. None of us can. That's the whole point. A knock at the door interrupted them. Rookie poked his head in. Elena, there's someone here to see you. Who? She says her name is Maria. She was one of the women from the farm. Elena stood immediately. Send her in. Maria was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, with dark hair and eyes that had seen too much. She couldn't have been more than 22, but she carried herself like someone much older. Mrs. Martinez. Her English was accented but clear. I hope it's okay that I came. Of course. Please sit. Can I get you anything water, coffee? No, thank you. Maria perched on the edge of a chair, her hands twisting in her lap. I wanted to. I needed to thank you. Thank me. For what you did at the farm. The other women told me what happened, how you came to confront Crane yourself, how you helped the bikers find us. I didn't do it alone, but you did it. You risked your life for people you didn't even know, people like me. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I was in that barn for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of thinking no one would ever come, that I would be sold like an animal, and then you came. Elena felt her own tears threatening. I came because I know what it's like to be trapped, to feel like there's no way out. The FBI agent, she told me about your husband, what he did to you. He was not a good man. But you survived. You got away. Eventually. It took 5 years, but yes. I survived. Maria leaned forward, her expression intense. I want to do what you're doing. I want to help other women, but I don't know how. I don't have papers. I don't have money. I don't have anything. Elena reached out and took Maria's hands. You have the most important thing. You have experience. You understand what these women are going through because you went through it yourself. But who would listen to me? I'm nobody. You're not nobody. You're a survivor, and survivors have more power than you know. Elena squeezed her hands. Stay. Work with me. We'll figure it out together. You would do that for me. Maria, listen to me. A few weeks ago, I was exactly where you are now. Scared, alone, convinced my life was over. But people helped me. Strangers who owed me nothing decided that I was worth saving. Now it's my turn to pass that on. Maria stared at her for a long moment. Then she broke down crying. Elena held her rocking, gently murmuring words of comfort. And as she did, something crystallized inside her. A purpose. A calling. This was what she was meant to do. Over the following weeks, Elena and Maria became a team. They visited shelters, connected with social services, and advocated for trafficking victims at every level of government. Elena used her status as a witness in the Crane case to gain access to politicians and policymakers, telling her story over and over until people started to listen. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Elena, it's Agent Chen. I have some news. Good news or bad news? Complicated news. Derek asked to see you. Elena's stomach dropped. I thought I made it clear I don't want contact with him. I know, but he says he has information. Information about other trafficking operations that he didn't share before. Why would he hold that back? Because it implicates his brother. Elena froze. Derek doesn't have a brother. Apparently he does. Half-brother, actually. Name's Carlos Vance. He runs a separate operation out of Houston, even bigger than Crane's. And Derek knew about this the whole time. He claims he was trying to protect family, but he's had a lot of time to think in prison, and he's decided that protecting family isn't worth protecting monsters. What does this have to do with me? He'll only talk if you're there. He says you're the only person who might understand why he stayed quiet. Elena was silent for a long moment. The thought of seeing Derek again made her physically ill. But if there were more victims, more people trapped in cages waiting to be sold. When? She asked. Tomorrow. I can have a car pick you up at 8. I'll be ready. Bear didn't like it. He made that abundantly clear during the argument that followed. You don't owe him anything, he said, pacing the clubhouse like a caged animal. He's manipulating you, using your compassion to get what he wants. What could he possibly want? He's already going to prison for 12 years. Attention, connection, the chance to see you one more time. Maybe, but if there's even a chance that he knows something that could save lives, I have to try. Then I'm coming with you. Bear. Non-negotiable. You're not walking into that prison alone. Elena wanted to argue, but part of her was relieved. Fine, but you stay in the waiting area. I talk to him by myself. Deal. The federal prison was exactly as depressing as Elena had imagined. Gray walls, harsh lighting, the constant sound of metal doors clanging shut. She signed in, surrendered her belongings, and followed a guard through a maze of corridors until they reached the visitors area. Derek was already waiting behind a thick glass partition. He looked older somehow, despite only a few weeks having passed. Smaller. Elena picked up the phone on her side. Derek did the same. "You came," he said. "You said you have information." "Right to business. I guess I deserve that." "Derek, I don't have time for games. If you know something that can help more victims, tell me. Otherwise, I'm leaving." He nodded slowly. "Carlos Vance. My father's other son from a woman in Mexico. We didn't even know about each other until 5 years ago. What does he do? The same thing Crane did, but bigger. He moves people across the border, not just in Texas, but through New Mexico, Arizona, California. Hundreds of people a year. And you knew about this. I knew he existed. I knew what he did. But he's family, Elena. The only family I had left after my father died. Family doesn't excuse. I know it doesn't." Derek's voice cracked. "But I was weak. I've always been weak. You know that better than anyone." Elena felt the familiar anger rising, but she pushed it down. "Tell me about Carlos. Everything you know." For the next hour, Derek talked. Locations, contacts, methods. A smuggling network that dwarfed anything Crane had built. Elena recorded everything on a device Agent Chen had provided her, horror growing with each revelation. When he finally finished, Elena sat in stunned silence. "Why now?" she asked. "Why tell me this after everything?" "Because you were right. What you said in the hospital, about being happy, about building a life I can't imagine." Derek's eyes glistened. "I thought about that every day in here, and I realized that I don't want to die knowing I could have saved people and didn't. That's the only reason. No." He pressed his palm against the glass. "I also wanted you to know that you changed me, not completely. I'm still the man who hurt you, but you made me see what I could have been, what I should have been." Elena stared at his hand against the glass. For 5 years, those hands had been instruments of her torture. Now they looked pathetic, desperate. "I don't forgive you," she said quietly. "I'm not sure I ever will. I know. But I believe you, about wanting to do the right thing. That's more than I deserve." Elena stood up. "Goodbye, Derek." "Elena." His voice stopped her. "Thank you. For coming. For listening. For being the person I never let you be." She hung up the phone without responding. Agent Chen was waiting outside. "We heard everything. This is huge, Elena. We can take down Carlos's entire operation with this information." "Then do it. Take them all down." "It's going to take time. Months, maybe years. But we'll get there." Chen paused. "You know you could have a future in this. Law enforcement victims advocacy policy work. You have a gift for this." "I know what I want to do," Elena said. "I want to open a shelter. A real one, not just temporary housing. A place where women can rebuild their lives." "That's ambitious." "I've spent 5 years being small, being invisible. I'm done with that." Chen smiled. "Then let's make it happen." 6 months passed. The trials concluded, the sentences were handed down, and Victor Crane was put away for life. Derek's testimony led to the arrest of Carlos Vance and the dismantling of his trafficking network. Over 200 victims were rescued in the largest anti-trafficking operation in Texas history. And Elena Martinez, the woman who had screamed for help in a parking lot, became the face of the survivor advocacy movement. The day she received the official nonprofit certification for Phoenix House, she sat in Bear's office at the clubhouse, staring at the document in disbelief. "It's real," she whispered. "It's actually real." Bear smiled from across his desk. "What did I tell you? You were always capable of extraordinary things. I couldn't have done it without you, without the wolves." "You could have. It just would have taken longer." Elena shook her head. "No, I would be dead in a parking lot. You saved my life, Bear." "And you saved mine," his voice roughened. "After Lily died, I didn't think I had anything left to live for. Helping you, watching you transform into this incredible woman, it gave me purpose again. Then we saved each other." "Yeah." Bear reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small box. I have something for you. Elena opened it to find a leather patch. Iron Wolves MC, honorary member. It's not official, Bear explained. You don't ride and you're not part of the Brotherhood, but your family, Elena, you always will be. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched the patch to her chest. Thank you for everything. Don't thank me yet. Bear's eyes twinkled. Grace says you're having the grand opening next month, which means I'm probably going to have to wear a suit. Elena laughed through her tears. Would you? For you, anything. She left his office floating on air, the patch clutched in her hand like a talisman. She had a shelter to open, victims to help, a life to build. But first, she had one more thing to do. That evening, Elena drove to the cemetery on the edge of town. She'd never been here before, but she knew exactly where she was going. Lily Thornton's grave was simple. A white marble headstone with her name, her dates, and a single phrase, beloved daughter. Elena knelt in the grass and placed a bouquet of wildflowers at the base of the stone. Hi, Lily, she said softly. We've never met, but I feel like I know you. Your dad talks about you all the time. The wind rustled through the trees, but otherwise the cemetery was silent. I wanted to thank you. I know that sounds strange, but hear me out. Your dad saved my life because he couldn't save yours. Every time he looked at me, he saw a chance at redemption, a chance to get it right. Elena traced the letters of Lily's name with her finger. So, I'm going to make it count. I'm going to help as many women as I can, and every time I do, I'll think of you. You'll live on through every life we save. That's my promise to you. She sat there until the sun began to set, talking to a woman she'd never known but felt connected to in ways she couldn't explain. Then she stood, brushed off her knees, and walked toward her future. 1 year to the day after Elena screamed for help in that parking lot, Phoenix House opened its doors. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew a crowd larger than Elena had dared to imagine. Local politicians, media crews, social workers, and survivors filled the street outside the renovated building in downtown Austin. But the people who mattered most stood right beside her. Bear wore a suit for the first time in 30 years. He kept tugging at the collar like it was choking him. Stop fidgeting, Grace whispered. You look distinguished. I look like a penguin. A distinguished penguin. Elena laughed, the sound surprising her. A year ago, she couldn't remember how to laugh. Now it came as naturally as breathing. Ready? Maria asked, handing her the oversized scissors. Elena looked at the crowd, at the reporters with their cameras, at the survivors who had come to support her, at the Iron Wolves lined up in their leather vests, looking completely out of place and completely at home. Ready, she said. The ribbon fell, the crowd cheered, and Phoenix House officially came to life. The first hour was a blur of handshakes and interviews. Elena answered the same questions over and over. Why did you start this? What services do you offer? How can people help? But one interview stood out. A young reporter from a national news network approached her with a cameraman in tow. Mrs. Martinez, our viewers want to know what made you decide to turn your personal tragedy into a public mission. Elena considered the question carefully. Because silence is what abusers count on. They thrive in darkness. The only way to defeat them is to bring everything into the light. Some people say you're too young to be running an organization like this, that you don't have the experience. Experience? Elena felt something harden in her chest. I have 5 years of experience being beaten, starved, and terrorized. I have experience hiding bruises with makeup. I have experience lying to doctors about how I got my injuries. I have experience praying every night that I wouldn't wake up. The reporter's face paled. So, yes, Elena continued. I have experience. More than I ever wanted. And I'm going to use every ounce of it to make sure other women don't have to earn the same credentials. The interview aired that night on national television. By morning, Phoenix House had received over $50,000 in donations and 300 volunteer applications. But the work was just beginning. The first resident arrived 2 days after the grand opening. Her name was Teresa, a 43-year-old mother of two who had finally escaped her husband after 18 years of abuse. Elena met her at the door personally. "You're safe here," Elena said, taking Teresa's shaking hands. "No one can hurt you anymore." Teresa burst into tears. "I didn't think anyone would help. I called hotlines, went to shelters, but everywhere was full. I almost went back to him. I almost gave up." "But you didn't. You kept fighting. That's the hardest thing in the world, and you did it." "How do you know?" "Because I did the same thing. A year ago, I was exactly where you are now." Teresa stared at her. But you're so together, so strong." "I wasn't always. I had help. Now it's my turn to pass that help on." Over the following weeks, Phoenix House filled to capacity. 23 women and 14 children, each with their own story of survival. Elena hired counselors, caseworkers, and security personnel. She established partnerships with local hospitals and legal aid organizations. She built a network of support that wrapped around each resident like armor. But not everyone was happy about her success. The first threat came 3 months after opening. Elena was working late reviewing intake files when her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello," heavy breathing. Then a voice she didn't recognize. "You think you can save them all? You think you're some kind of hero?" "Who is this?" "Someone who doesn't appreciate you meddling in things that don't concern you. Phoenix House should burn, and you with it." The line went dead. Elena's hands trembled as she called Bear. "I'm on my way," he said before she could explain. "Don't leave the building. Don't open the door for anyone." 20 minutes later, the Iron Wolves surrounded Phoenix House like a protective wall. Bear sat with Elena in her office, his face grim as she played back the voicemail she'd recorded. "It's not Crane's people," Bear said. "They're all in prison or running scared." "Then who?" "Could be anyone. Abusers don't like what you're doing. You're making it harder for them to control their victims. Some of them are going to push back. So what do I do?" "You keep going. You don't let threats stop you." Bear's eyes met hers. "But you also don't take unnecessary risks. From now on, Hammer stays with you, day and night." "Bear, I can't have a bodyguard." "You can, and you will. This isn't negotiable, Elena. You're too important. To Phoenix House. To me." The words hung in the air between them. Elena felt tears prickling her eyes. "You're the daughter I should have protected," Bear continued, his voice rough. "I lost Lily because I wasn't there when she needed me. I'm not losing you too." "You won't lose me. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. Just be careful, please." Elena reached across the desk and took his weathered hand. "I will." The threats continued over the following months. Anonymous calls, menacing letters, even a brick through the front window with a note that read, "Close or die." But Elena refused to back down, and then came the day that tested everything she'd built. It started with a phone call from Agent Chen. "Elena, I need you to come to the federal building. There's something you need to see." "Can't you just tell me over the phone?" "No, this needs to be in person." Elena drove downtown with a knot in her stomach. Agent Chen was waiting in her office, her expression unreadable. "What's going on?" Elena asked. "Derek is dead." The words didn't register at first. "What?" "He was killed in prison 2 days ago, stabbed in the exercise yard. We just got confirmation." Elena sat down heavily, her mind reeling. "Who did it?" "We're investigating, but we believe it was ordered by Carlos Vance. Revenge for Derek's testimony. Carlos is supposed to be in prison too." "He is, but men like him have long arms." Elena stared at the wall, trying to feel something. Grief, relief. She couldn't identify the emotions swirling inside her. "There's more," Agent Chen continued. "Before Derek died, he sent you a letter. The prison forwarded it to us for review." She handed Elena an envelope. Her name was written on the front in Derek's handwriting. "I'll give you some privacy," Chen said, stepping out. Elena opened the envelope with trembling fingers. The letter was 3 pages long, written in Derek's cramped script. She read it slowly, tears streaming down her face. "Elena, If you're reading this, I'm probably dead. I knew it would happen eventually. Men like Carlos don't forgive betrayal. I want you to know that I don't regret testifying. For the first time in my worthless life, I did something that mattered, something good. And that's because of you. I spent a lot of time in here thinking about what went wrong between us, how I became the monster I swore I'd never be. My father beat my mother. I watched it happen every day for 18 years. I promised myself I'd never be like him. But promises are easy to break. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I am asking you to understand that the violence in me wasn't something you caused. It was something I inherited, something I should have fought harder against. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I destroyed you. That's my legacy. That's what I have to carry into whatever comes next. But here's the thing, Elena. You rebuilt yourself. You took the broken pieces I left behind and made something beautiful. Phoenix House, the women you're helping, the life you're living, that's your legacy, and it's worth more than anything I ever did. I'm enclosing something with this letter. It's the deed to a property my father left me years ago. I never told you about it because I was saving it for, I don't even know what. But it's yours now. Do something good with it. Build another shelter. Expand your mission. Whatever feels right. I love you. I always did. I just didn't know how to show it without hurting you. Be happy, Elena. Be happier than I ever let you be. Derek. Elena set down the letter and wept. She wept for the man Derek could have been, for the marriage that should have been beautiful, for the 5 years of pain that led to this moment. And then she dried her tears and called her lawyer. The property Derek left her was perfect. 20 acres outside Austin with a main house and several outbuildings. Enough space for a second shelter, a job training center, and housing for women who were ready to live independently. Elena broke ground on Phoenix House 2, 6 months later. The expansion attracted national attention. Media coverage brought in more donations, more volunteers, more support than Elena had ever imagined. Within a year, Phoenix House had helped over 200 women escape domestic violence and human trafficking, but the work took its toll. Elena was running on 4 hours of sleep a night, skipping meals, pushing herself past every reasonable limit. Grace noticed first. "You're burning out," Grace said bluntly one evening. "When was the last time you took a day off?" "I can't take days off. There's too much to do." "There will always be too much to do. That's not an excuse to destroy yourself." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You've lost 15 pounds. You have circles under your eyes that makeup can't hide. And you snapped at Maria yesterday for no reason." Elena winced. "I apologized for that." "Apologizing isn't the same as fixing the problem. Elena, listen to me. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you collapse, who runs Phoenix House? Who helps the women who need you?" "But no buts. You're taking a week off, starting now." "Grace, I can't just..." "You can and you will. Bear already agreed to cover the administrative stuff. Maria can handle intake. The counselors can manage their own caseloads." Grace crossed her arms. "You're going somewhere quiet, and you're going to rest. Doctor's orders. You're not a doctor anymore. Once a nurse, always a nurse. Now go pack a bag." Elena wanted to argue, but she knew Grace was right. She was exhausted in ways she couldn't even articulate. The weight of 200 stories pressed down on her shoulders, and she was cracking under the strain. "Where would I even go?" she asked. "Old Timer has a cabin in the hill country. No phone signal, no internet, just trees and silence. He's already offered it." "You planned this. We've been planning it for weeks. We were just waiting for the right moment to spring it on you." Despite herself, Elena laughed. "You're all impossible. We're family. That's what family does." The cabin was exactly what Elena needed. For 7 days, she did nothing but sleep, eat, and sit by the creek that ran behind the property. She read books she'd been meaning to read for years. She took walks through the woods. She let her mind go quiet for the first time since the parking lot. On the 5th day, Bear came to visit. He found her sitting on the cabin porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. "You look better," he said, settling into the chair beside her. "I feel better. I didn't realize how tired I was." Trauma does that. It takes pieces of you that you don't even notice are missing until you stop long enough to take inventory. Is that how it was for you? After Lily. Bear was quiet for a long moment. After Lily, I wanted to die. Simple as that. I rode my bike into oncoming traffic 3 times, hoping someone would hit me. I drank until I couldn't remember her face. I picked fights with anyone who looked at me wrong. What stopped you? Old timer. He found me passed out in a ditch one night, half dead from alcohol poisoning. He sobered me up, put me to work, and refused to let me give up. Bear smiled slightly. Stubborn old bastard saved my life. And now you're saving others. That's how it works. The saved become the saviors. The broken learn to heal. He turned to look at her. You understand that better than anyone. I'm starting to. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the last light fade from the sky. Elena, Bear said eventually, I need to tell you something. What? I'm sick. The words hit her like a physical blow. What do you mean sick? Cancer. Lung cancer. The doctors found it 3 months ago. 3 months. Why didn't you tell me? Because you had enough to deal with. Phoenix House, the expansion, everything. I didn't want to add to your burden. Bear. Elena's voice cracked. You're not a burden. You could never be a burden. I know that now, but I needed time to process it myself before I could share it with anyone else. What's the prognosis? Uncertain. The cancer is aggressive, but they caught it relatively early. Treatment starts next week. Elena felt tears streaming down her face. You're going to fight this, you hear me? You're going to fight, and you're going to win. That's the plan. Bear reached over and took her hand. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. If I don't make it, don't let Phoenix House die. It's your legacy, but it's also Lily's. Everything good that comes from it is a tribute to her. Promise me you'll keep it going no matter what. You're going to make it. Promise me, Elena. She squeezed his hand hard enough to hurt. I promise. Good. Bear stood up, brushing off his jeans. Now I'm going to head back. You've got 2 more days of rest, and I expect you to use them. Bear. Elena stopped him. I love you. You know that, right? Like the father I never had. His eyes glistened. I know. I love you too, kid. Like the daughter I couldn't save. He walked to his motorcycle and rode away, leaving Elena alone with the gathering darkness and the weight of mortality. The next year was the hardest of Elena's life. Bear's treatment was brutal. Chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. He lost weight, lost hair, lost the physical strength that had made him so intimidating. But he never lost his spirit. Elena visited him every day, reading to him, telling him about the latest developments at Phoenix House, making him laugh when she could. The Iron Wolves took turns sitting with him, ensuring he was never alone. And through it all, the work continued. Phoenix House 2 opened on schedule. A 3rd location was announced in Houston. The federal government invited Elena to testify before Congress about the need for more resources to combat domestic violence and human trafficking. Her face appeared on magazine covers and news programs across the country, but the only face she cared about was Bear's. The turning point came on a cold February morning. Elena was in Bear's hospital room when the doctor arrived with the latest scan results. She braced herself for bad news. They'd received nothing but bad news for months. Mr. Thornton, the doctor said, a strange expression on his face. I don't know how to explain this. Bear's jaw tightened. Just say it. Whatever it is. The tumor is gone. Silence. What? Elena whispered. I've checked the scans 3 times. The cancer has completely disappeared. It's as if it was never there. Bear stared at him. That's not possible. I would have agreed with you yesterday, but I'm looking at the evidence. You're in complete remission. Elena burst into tears. Bear sat frozen, unable to process what he was hearing. It's a miracle, the doctor said simply. I don't have any other word for it. Later, after the tests and confirmations and celebrations, Elena sat alone with Bear in his hospital room. A miracle, she repeated. After everything, an actual miracle. I don't believe in miracles, Bear said. Then how do you explain it? He was quiet for a long moment. Maybe Lily. Maybe she's watching out for me, giving me more time. More time for what? Bear looked at her with eyes full of emotion. To see you fly. To watch everything you've built. To be there when Phoenix House becomes everything you dreamed it could be. You'll be there, Elena said firmly. You'll be there for all of it. Yeah. Bear smiled, and for the first time in months it reached his eyes. Yeah, I think I will. The years that followed were good years. Phoenix House expanded to 5 locations across Texas. Elena's advocacy work led to new legislation protecting trafficking victims and domestic violence survivors. She was invited to speak at the United Nations, at universities, at conferences around the world. But her greatest achievement wasn't the speeches, or the awards, or the recognition. It was the women. Over the years, Elena helped thousands of women rebuild their lives. She watched them go from broken and terrified to strong and confident. She saw them start businesses, raise children, find love, and discover purposes they never knew they had. Maria became the director of Phoenix House Houston. Teresa, the first resident, earned her GED and then her bachelor's degree, eventually becoming a counselor at the original shelter. Survivor after survivor found their voice, their strength, their future. And Elena was there for all of it. On the 5-year anniversary of Phoenix House, a celebration was held at the original location in Austin. Hundreds of people attended, survivors, staff, supporters, and the Iron Wolves still standing strong. Bear, now 70 years old and healthier than he had any right to be, stood beside Elena as she prepared to address the crowd. Nervous, he asked. A little. Is that strange? I've given 100 speeches, but this one feels different. It is different. This is your legacy. This is what you'll be remembered for. I couldn't have done any of it without you. Sure you could have. It just would have taken longer. Elena laughed the same joke he'd made 5 years ago. Some things never changed. She stepped up to the microphone. 5 years ago, she began, I was dying in a parking lot. My husband had beaten me so badly I couldn't stand. I thought that was the end. I thought no one would come. She paused, looking out at the faces before her. But someone did come. A group of bikers who owed me nothing decided that my life was worth saving. They could have ridden past. They could have minded their own business. Instead, they stopped. Her eyes found Bear in the crowd. He gave her a small nod. That night, I learned something that changed my life. I learned that help exists, that strangers can become family, that no matter how dark things get, there is always someone willing to hold out a hand. She thought of Derek, dead in prison, his final letter still tucked in her desk drawer. She thought of Victor Crane, rotting in a cell, his empire reduced to ashes. She thought of the 37 people rescued from that barn, now living lives they never thought possible. Phoenix House exists because I refused to let my story end in that parking lot. It exists because an incredible group of people believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And it exists because every single woman in this room made the same choice I did, the choice to survive. Applause rippled through the crowd. Elena waited for it to fade. But I want to end with a message for anyone who might be watching, anyone who might be in the situation I was in 5 years ago, someone who's being hurt, who's afraid, who thinks no one cares. She leaned into the microphone, her voice strong and clear. You matter. Your life matters. And if you can find the courage to scream for help, I promise you someone will answer. Maybe not the person you expect, maybe not in the way you imagine, but someone will come. She stepped back from the microphone. My name is Elena Martinez. I am a survivor. And this is Phoenix House, where broken women learn to fly. The crowd erupted, standing ovation, cheering, tears. But Elena barely heard any of it. She was looking at Bear, at Grace, at Hammer and Old Timer and Rookie and Maria and all the others who had become her family. She was thinking about the journey that had brought her here from a terrified waitress to a nationally recognized advocate. She was thinking about Lily watching from somewhere beyond, proud of her father and the woman he'd saved in her name. And she was thinking about the future, all the women who would come through Phoenix House's doors, all the lives that would be changed, all the screams that would finally be answered. Grace appeared at her side, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. You did it, Grace said. You really did it. We did it, Elena corrected. All of us. Bear joined them, pulling both women into a rough embrace. I'm proud of you, kid. More proud than I can say. Thanks for not riding past, Elena whispered. Best decision I ever made. They stood there together as the celebration continued around them. Three people who had found each other in the darkness and emerged into the light. Elena looked up at the Phoenix House sign gleaming in the afternoon sun. 5 years ago, she had screamed for help in a parking lot. Tonight, she stood at the center of an empire of hope. And somewhere out there, another woman was finding the courage to scream. Someone would answer. Someone always would. Because that was the promise of Phoenix House. That was Elena's legacy. That was the truth she had learned in blood and pain and tears. No one has to face the darkness alone. Not anymore. Not ever again. Phoenix House has helped over 3,000 women escape domestic violence and human trafficking. If you or someone you know needs help, you are not alone. Reach out. Someone will answer. Thank you for watching this story. Please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, every survivor was once someone who thought they couldn't make it one more day. If that's you, right now, hold on. Your Phoenix House is out there waiting.